Okay, so we come now to the next topic, which is all about the hyperbola. So by definition, a hyperbola is the locus of a point which moves in a plane so that the difference of its distance from two fixed points of the plane, called the foci, is a positive constant less than the distance between the foci. Okay, so if you notice, the definition of a hyperbola is just similar to the definition of an ellipse, only that the constant is the difference of its distance from the foci, while for ellipses, sum of the distances to the foci is a constant. Now, in terms of eccentricity, the hyperbola has an eccentricity greater than 1. If you recall, di ba, sa previous lesson, pag parabola, the same angle siya dito. Ang slant or ang slant ng cutting plane, the same angle. Pag ellipse, if the slant is less than, the angle of inclination of the slant is less than the angle of inclination of the, dito na lang. Pag ellipse, yung angle of inclination ng ellipse is less than the angle of inclination of the slant. So therefore, if you get the eccentricity by using the sign of these angles, for example, this is alpha, this is beta. So that would be sine beta over sine alpha. So since sine beta is much smaller than sine alpha, so the eccentricity is less than 1. So that's for ellipse. Now for hyperbolas, if you notice here, hyperbolas, this angle beta is much greater than this angle alpha. So that means the ratio eccentricity equal to sine of beta over sine alpha is greater than 1 because sine beta would be greater. Remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Or the greater the angle, mas malaki yung value ng opposite side. So that's why sine beta should be or is greater than sine alpha. So the result is greater than 1. Okay, if we take a look at this situation here, when the cutting plane cuts from here or cuts this way, so what we have formed is this. Ito. So magpares siya na parang pares or paired na parabola. Okay? So suppose let's itumba na lang natin, i-horizontal na lang muna natin. So we have this illustration. So ibig sabihin nito, ito yung cone niya dito. Oh, sorry. So ito yung cone dito. Okay? So tinumba lang natin. So this is a parabola with transverse axis horizontal. Meaning kung asan yung opening niya, yun yung transverse axis. Okay? Then the other one is the conjugate axis. Okay? Now, the same way, the distance from the center to the vertex is A. So, i-denote natin to as A. This distance is A. This distance is also A. So, if we draw an asymptote dito, kasi asymptotic siya, if you zoom out this figure, eto siya dito will move up to infinity as x moves into infinity. Then, as well as dito na side, sa kabilang side. So, therefore, kung i-zoom out mo siya, it will approach this line. Yung graph na makikita mo is just this line. And also this line. So, if we draw this, yung dalawang asymptote niya, drawing natin. So, let's use this color. So, this is one asymptote. Okay, then this is another asymptote here. Of course, it should intersect at the center. The two asymptotes, oblique asymptotes, should intersect at the center. So, let me move that. Ayaw ma-move. Anyway, okay, let's just say na nasa center siya. Extend this, eto. Extend din natin to, passing through the vertex. Okay, then we connect this. Okay, so yung A is this distance and this distance. So yung B natin for the conjugate axis, for the conjugate axis is eto and eto. So these distances now are B. So this is B, this is also B, as well as here, this is B, this is also B. Okay? So, ganun siya. So, the distance from the center to the focus, let's say, I don't mind the values Tanggalin natin to. So, wala pa tayong values because this is just a general hyperbola. So, let's say, ito yung mga location ng foci. So, this distance is C. And this distance is also C. So, what do you notice? First, in this case, C na yung pinaka-longest na distance. Unlike dito sa ellipse, that A is the longest distance. So, doing what we have done dun sa derivation natin sa ellipse, we'll find out ano ko na lang, shorten ko na lang discussion. You will find out that this is the relation. C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared. That means, if this is C, this value is also C. Try to illustrate this relation. Anyway, for conics, this is constant. Yung relation natin na C is equal to A times A and D is equal to A over E are the same for conics. I mean for hyperbola. Okay, now if we try to look at this, if we consider this point, this vertex here, that means the difference, or by definition, sige, definition of hyperbola muna. So by definition of hyperbola, sabi, the difference of the distances from two fixed points or the focus. So that means that this distance minus this distance is constant to all points. That means if the point is right here, this distance minus distance is the same as this distance minus this distance, as this distance minus this distance. Okay? So if we consider now this point, that means this distance minus this distance is equal to, if we consider this point, this distance minus this distance. Okay, so let's try that. So, unahin natin to. Etong distance na to, that would be 2C minus this. Okay, so this is 2C minus this. And this side is C minus A. So, I would write that as 2C minus C minus A. Okay. So, that would be this distance. Minus this distance, so minus C minus A, that would be equal to, let us now consider this one, this point. Ito. So, the same way, sa length of the latus rectum or half of the latus rectum, that would be B squared over A, as we have illustrated in the previous problem. So, that means, sige, isulat natin dito. If this is B squared over A, we have formed a right triangle. Okay? In which in which this side is 2C and this side is B squared over A. So, what is this side? So, by Pythagorean tayo. So, meaning, what we are trying to equate here is this distance minus this distance. Okay, now to get this value, that would be by Pythagorean na lang. Okay, hypotenuse kasi siya. This is just the hypotenuse of this right triangle. So that would be the square root of, wait. So this side is just 2C. So 2C squared plus, of course, this side, that's B squared over A. So B squared over A, then squared. Then minus, of course, this side, which is B squared over A. So minus B squared over A. Okay? So, yun yung inequate natin. In short, this distance minus this distance is equal to this distance minus this distance. So, eto na siya. Okay? So, kung i-simplify na natin, that would be 2C minus C plus A minus C plus A. So, that means we could just cancel out C. 2C. That is equal to the square root of, this becomes 4C squared plus B raised to 4 over A squared minus B squared over A. So, this is now 2A equal to, eto na lang, i-transfer natin to the other side. So, that would be plus B squared over A. So, that would be equal to yung natira sa other side. that would be equal to the square root of 4c squared plus b raised to 4 over a squared. Okay? Okay? Then if we square both sides to eliminate the radical, that would be 4a squared plus 4a times b squared over a. So we could just cancel this out. Plus b raised to 4 over a squared. That would be equal to 4c squared plus b raised to 4 over a squared. Okay? Then, eto, makancel out na to. And we could factor out 4, then we could cancel out 4. Okay? So that means we have shown that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Or a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Okay? So, yun na, QED. We have illustrated this relation. Okay? So it also follows that if you want to solve for b or b squared, that would be equal to c squared minus a squared. Okay? So for the general equation of this, if this is the origin, the center is at the origin, we could just follow this derivation sa ellipse, the same gihapon ni siya, or the same pa rin siya. We could just follow that derivation and we will come up with this equation. So x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. So, sa ellipse, plus siya dito. Pero sa hyperbola, it should be minus. And, sa ellipse kasi, dapat yung major axis or transverse axis should be greater than the conjugate or the minor axis. Or a should be greater than b for ellipse. But for hyperbola, it doesn't matter. So, a could be greater than b. Okay, I will illustrate later. Okay, so this is for hyperbola with center at the origin and opening sideward. So, sideward ang orientation nito. Then, we also have, let me write that again. So, center at the origin and sideward ang opening. So, we also have we also have y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared. That's equal to 1. This is for center at the origin pero upward na or vertical na ang conjugate, transverse axis. Or yung sideward, what I mean by sideward here, that is horizontal. Let's repeat that. That would be horizontal transverse axis. Okay? So, by now, siguro you can just generalize that similar to the ellipse, when the center is at HK, the equation would be this, or the formula should be x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared. That's equal to 1. Okay, this is for center at HK, and this is for horizontal transverse axis. And of course, we have y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared, equals to 1. This is for ellipse with center, this is for hyperbola with center at HK and vertical transverse axis. Okay? So, eto lang yung mga formulas niya. Very easy. And if you notice, kung ano yung orientation niya, andun yung value ng A. So, kung horizontal siya or X yung transverse axis niya, andun yung A. So, dito mauna lagi si A. Okay? Let's use Desmos to illustrate. Okay. This was the hyperbola that we illustrated kanina. So, eto, we have a slider for A and B. Okay? So, what I mean kanina na A could be greater or less than B, eto, let's try. So, let's say A is greater than B. So, ayun lang mangyayari. So, it will just be farther away from the center. Okay? Because the value of A dictates its distance from the center. Okay? Now, pwede din siya yung B mas greater. Eto, kung greater yung B, mas wider lang yung opening niya. Because B dictates the amount or the value of the opening of the hyperbola. Okay? Ito yung magdidictate sa opening niya. Ito naman for the distance from the center. Then yung about sa asymptote, ito yon. If we zoom that out, or if x and y approaches infinity, we will just get two intersecting line at 90 degrees. Oh no, not necessarily. Kasi pwede siya ito. Oh. Ayan. Pwede siyang mag-iba. Or ito din. Oh. Pwede mag-iba yung value niya. So, yun na yung asymptote. Ito na yun na line. So, we could add that here. So, depende sa equation ng ano natin. Yung A and B, that would be the slope, di ba? Rise over run lang yan. Yung B is the rise. So, for example, gawin nating 2, 2. We have 2, 2 na value dito. So, that means the slope is 1. That's B over A. So, 2 over 2, that's 1. So, our line is just y is equal to x. That is the asymptote. Ayan. So, yun yung asymptote niya. So, pwede din, the other asymptote, i-reverse lang natin yung slope niya. So, that would be, hindi naman siya negative reciprocal because that would be perpendicular, but i-inverse lang natin para yung inclination niya is pabaliktad. So, that would be y is equal to negative x. Ayan yung line. Okay? So, these are the asymptotes. Okay, as our first example, let's try this one. Problem 19-1. This is already lesson 19. Find the center, vertices, foci, and asymptote of the hyperbola 4x squared minus y squared equals 4 and sketch the graph. So, very easy. Let's start with looking at the this formula. So, 4x squared minus y squared equals 4. So, let us divide all terms by 4. So, this becomes x squared minus y squared over 4 equals 1. So, it follows na merong 1 dito, di ba? X squared over 1 is just x squared. Okay, so yan na lang natin ilagay. So, that means, kung nauna yung x, kung positive yung x squared, kung nasa positive siya, so that means it's opening to the sides. Okay? So, ito yung a natin. So, it follows that a squared is equal to 1 and this one is our b. And b squared is equal to 4. So, a is equal to 1 and b is equal to 2. So, asaan ang center? Of course, the center at, yung center, alam na natin that it's at the origin. Kasi wala tayong hk dito. Okay, the center is at the origin and what else? The asymptotes. The focus. So, isolve natin yung focus. The distance from the focus to the center is c. So, let's just solve for c since we already have a and b. So, we know that c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Therefore, c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, which is 4. So, c squared is equal to 5. So, c is equal to the square root of 5. So, if nasa center natin, if our origin is at the center, so that means the location of the foci, let's call that F1 and F2 is ito. Graph na lang natin muna. Madali lang naman. So, let us graph this one. Okay, the center is at the origin. And the value of A, kung nasa transverse axis tayo, so A is horizontal ang pag-measure. So, the value of A is 1. So, therefore, these are the vertex. The vertices. This one and this one. Saan yung vertex natin? Then, yung B natin, that would be 2. So, this distance is our B. And this distance, and this distance, and this distance. So, that would be, eto na lang. Or, this is B, this is B, this is B, this is B. So, this is A and A, A and A. Ayan. So, kung i-connect natin siya, drawing the asymptote, ayan, not drawn to scale. Okay, this is one asymptote and the other asymptote is here, closer. Anyway, ayan. So, this is the other asymptote. So, the hyperbola is opening to the side. So, our hyperbola is now this. So, this is the vertex. So, it will open that way, and this way, and that way, and this way. Ayan. So, to locate the focus, that would be square root of 5. Square root of 5 is around 2 point something. Diba? 2 point something. Let us check. So, square root of 5, that's 2.24. So, square root of 5 is 2.24. So, the location of the focus is right around 2.24 here. And also around, so 2.24 around here. So, of course, if this is the origin, 0, 0, I mean this point, so the coordinates of this focus, let's call that F1, that would be negative square root of 5, 0, and our F2 is at square root of 5, 0. So this is the location of our foci. So that's negative square root of 5, 0, and square root of 5, 0. Okay. So meron tayong center, may vertices. For the vertices, of course, ito lang naman siya. So let's call this V1 and V2. Dito ko na nilagay. So for our vertices, V1 and V2, of course, V1 is located here. So that's 1 unit to the left, so negative 1. Negative 1, 0, and yung V2 natin is to the right, so positive 1, 0. Now, how about the asymptote? So yung asymptote natin passes through the origin. So we know that y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. So in this case, we have y minus, di ba, it passes through the origin. So therefore, this is 0, 0. So y is 0 and x is 0. So that would be y minus 0, that's equal to the slope times x minus 0. Now, how about the slope or m? So if we consider this line, yung slope natin is this. This is rise over run. Okay? And yung rise natin, that's B, di ba? And this run is A. So that's B over A. That would be B over A. 2 over 1 or 2. So y is equal to 2x. This is the equation of this line, of this asymptote. Y is equal to 2x. Now, the other asymptote, this one, nag-flip lang siya, di ba? It just flipped. It still passes to the origin. So, 0, 0 pa rin tayo. But this time, eto na yung slope niya. So, meron tayong rise. From here pala. From this point, meron tayong, negative na rise, pababa. Ulitin natin, ha? So, from this point, negative na rise or pababa, then positive na run. So, that's negative B over A. Or simply, kasi yung line natin pababa, so negative yung slope niya. So, that would be B over A na negative. So, therefore, the other asymptote is y is equal to negative 2x. So, eto siya. This is y equal to negative 2x. So, this is our asymptotes. Ganun lang siya kadali. Okay, for our second problem, let's try this. Find the center, vertices, foci, and asymptotes of the hyperbola 9x squared minus 16y squared plus 18x plus 64y equals 91 and sketch the graph. Okay, first, we need to change this into its standard form to locate the center and also the values of A and B. Okay, so let's start with doing this. So, i-group muna natin yung mga x. The same pa rin dun sa method na ginamit natin sa ellipse. So, we'll have 9x squared plus 18x minus 16y squared plus 64y. That would be equal to 91. Then, if I factor out 9, this would become x squared plus 2x. X squared plus 2x. Then, I'll factor out 16 here, or negative 16, that would be y squared. Then, that would become negative 4y. Okay, 16 times, or negative 16 times negative 4, that's 64. That's equal to 1. Okay? So by completing the squares, this becomes x squared plus 2x plus 1, so perfect square trinomial na, minus 16, so this is y squared minus 4y plus 4, so perfect square trinomial na, then equal to 91. Okay, So dito, we added 9. So we need to add 9 also here. And dito, we added 4 times negative 16. So that's negative 64. So we need to add negative 64 to the other side to balance. Okay. So this is now 9 times x plus 1 squared minus 16 times, this is now y minus 2 squared. Okay. That's equal to 91 plus 9, 100 minus 64, 36. So, that's it. Then we divide all terms by 36 para maging 1 or unity yung other side or the right side of the equation. So, this becomes x plus 1 squared. So, dito, that's over 36. Then, yung 9 dito, ilipat lang natin sa ilalim. So, ayan, 36 over 9. So, 36 over 9 is, wait ha, 36 over 9, that would be 4. Then minus y minus 2 squared over, that would be 36 over 16. Or 36, that would be 9 over 4. Tama ba? 9 over 4. Okay. Divided by 4, diba? Okay. So it's 9 over 4. So 9 over 4, that would be 36 over 36 is 1. So from here, we say that a squared is equal to 4. So a is 2. And b squared is equal to 9 over 4. So our b is 3 halves. And from the standard equation, we know that the axis or the transverse axis is horizontal. Kasi nasa, yung nauna is yung sa x. Okay. So, the value, the location of the center now is at, so to locate the center, the location is just dire. So we know that this should be x minus h. So therefore, our h is negative 1 because this is x minus negative 1. So h is negative 1 and k is 2. So the center is located at negative 1, positive 2. Okay? So we already have the center. To locate the focus or the foci, we need to get the value of c because the distance from the center to the foci or to one of the focus is, to one of the foci is equal to c. So to solve for c, we have c squared equal to a squared plus b squared. So c squared is equal to a squared, which is 4, and b squared, which is 9/4. Therefore, c squared is equal to, LCD is 4, so we'll have 16 plus 9, that's 25 over 4. So therefore, c is just equal to 5 halves. So c is equal to 5 halves. So we can now locate the location of the foci. Okay, so we'll do that by graphing na lang para madali. So let us first plot all these points and attributes. Okay, first, the location of the center is at negative 1, 2. So that's right here. Let's label that negative 1, 2. Then, to locate the vertex is simply, or the vertices is simply at the right and the left of the center at a distance of 2 units. So the first vertex is just located 2 units from the left or to the left. So that point, so let's call this vertex 1. And 2 units to the right, this would be this point, so that's vertex 2. For the coordinates of the vertices, we have v1 and v2. v1 is just located at dito, so that would be 3. Or just negative 1, that's negative 1, eto. Then we move to the left 2 units, so negative 1 minus 2, so it's negative 3. Negative 3, 2. And the other vertex is located here, then we move 2 units to the right, so that's negative 1 plus 2 units, that's positive 1. So the other vertex is located at 1, 2. Okay? So for the focus, it's 5 halves, so 5 halves is just 2.5. So that means moving 2.5 to the left, that would be 1, 2, then 0.5. This is the location of one of the foci, or our first focus. So this is our first focus, F1, and F2 is 2.5 to the right. That would be this point. This is our F2. And for the coordinate of F1, that would be -1. Then we move by 5 halves to the left, so minus 5 halves. So that's -7 halves. Then, syempre, nasa 2 pa rin. Then, ang F2 is from -1, we moved 5 halves to the right. So that would be positive 3 halves, or 1.5, or yeah, 3 halves 2. So we have now the location of the focus, or the foci. Okay, this time, in order for us to get the value, or the equation of the asymptotes, i-plot muna natin unahin muna natin pag-plot ng hyperbola. So, if this is now A, B is, that is 3 halves unit above and below. So, from here, we'll just move, tama, ito yung vertex natin, we'll just move 3 halves, or that's 1.5 units. So, this one. Then, 1.5 units below, this is now our B, then our B din dito, so right here, and B din dito sa baba, right here. So, i-connect na lang natin to. Let's just connect. Okay. Then, connect din natin, i-draw natin yung asymptote. So, this is our first asymptote. Then, the other asymptote is this. Okay. So, therefore, hyperbola is opening. Okay, so that's it. This is now the hyperbola. Remember again that our origin is right here. This is 0, 0. Okay. Now to compute for the value, or no, for the equation of the asymptotes, let's compute the asymptote. Ito muna. Okay, for this particular asymptote, it passes through -1, 2. So that's the point at which it passes. Then ang slope niya is ito. Ito yung rise niya, which is equal to B, which is 3 halves. Overrun niya, which is 2 units to the vertex. That's 2. Again, this is A, this is B. So therefore, the slope of that line is rise, which is 3 halves, overrun, which is 2, and it passes through, or lagyan natin ng value, that would be equal to 3/4. And it passes through the center, which is -1, 2. And using the slope point form of a line, that would be y minus y1 equal to m times x minus x1. That would become y minus positive, y minus 2, that's equal to 3/4 times x minus -1. So this is now, or this will become 4y minus 8, that's equal to 3x plus 3. So rearranging this, that would be the general form na lang, that would be 3x minus 4y plus 11. Okay, equal to 0. So this is our first asymptote, or this asymptote. For the second asymptote, it will still pass at -1, 2, pero yung slope niya is downward na yung rise, so that's -3 halves over run na 2 pa rin. That means the slope of the other asymptote is just -3/4, -3/4. And it still passes through -1, 2. So therefore, using the same equation, we'll have 1 minus 2, that's equal to -3/4, x minus -1. So this becomes 4y minus 8, that's equal to -3x minus 3. So simplifying, we'll have 3x plus 4y, then that would be -5 equal to 0. So this is our other asymptote. So here are our answers. We have the center, we have the vertices, the foci, and the asymptotes. So let us check our answer using Desmos. So ito yung given. Yan, i-plot natin, i-graph natin sa Desmos. So that's 9x squared minus 16y squared plus 18x plus 64y equals 91. Ayan, there. So let's check if the center is at negative 1, 2. Okay, so that's a center. Now for the vertices, let's check. That would be negative 3, 2, and that's 1, 2. Ayan, sakto. Then we have the focus is at negative 7 halves, negative 7 halves 2, and the other one is at 3 halves 2. So that's the location of the other focus. Now, i-plot natin yung asymptotes. Kung asymptotic talaga siya, sana, if di tayo nagkamali sa solution. So we have 3x minus 4y plus 11 equals 0. Ayun, so pasok. So that's our first asymptote. Then the other asymptote is 3x plus 4y minus 5 equals 0. Ayun, so pasok. So that's the other asymptote. So that is our answer. Napakadali. For our next problem, we have this. Problem 19-3. Find the equation of the hyperbola with asymptotes x plus y equals 1 and x minus y equals 1 passing through 3, 1. So, ang gagawin natin para madali, we'll just graph this na lang. So, we have x plus y equals 1. So, ito yung asymptote na isa. Then, we have another asymptote x minus y equals 1. So, that is the other asymptote. And it passes through, ano na yan? And it passes through 3, 1. So, passes through 3, 1. So, that point, label natin. Ayan. So, ito yung mga given. So, let me screen cap this and ito yung gamitin natin na figure. Okay. With this given, to the sides na naman. With this given, that means that that the hyperbola behaves like this kasi it should pass through 3, 1. So, ito yung hyperbola natin. So, ang opening natin is to the sideward ulit. Ayan yung hyperbola natin. So, ang gagawin natin is to get the equation. Now, by looking at the asymptotes, we say that this is the center of the hyperbola because that is where the asymptotes are intersecting. So, kahit sa graph na lang natin tingnan, the point of intersection is at 1, 0. Or pwede din naman natin siya i-compute just to be sure. We have x plus y equals 1 and x minus y equals 1. So, by solving simultaneously, add na lang natin dalawang equation to solve for the values of x and y at the point of intersection. So, if we add these two equations, that would become 2x, then y minus y, that's 0, that's equal to 2. So, x is equal to 1. So, when x is equal to 1, it follows, since we know that x plus y is equal to 1, so 1 plus y is equal to 1, cancel this out, so y is equal to 0. So, yun na yun. So, therefore, this point of intersection, let's use this one. Oh no, let's use this one. So, the point of intersection, which is our center, is at 1, 0. Okay, sunod, ang kailangan natin ma-solve is ang value ng a and b. Pero, we cannot do that here kasi we don't know kung yung etong nag-enclose na box niya for the transverse and the conjugate axis, asan siya banda? Is it right here? Is it right here? We don't know. Okay, since we know that the hyperbola is opening to the side, so we'll use x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus b squared equals 1. So, yun yung gagamitin natin. So, that would be the equation of the hyperbola, although unknown pa yung mga values ng A and B. So, that would be x, let's use this, x minus h squared, so yung h natin is 1, yung k natin is 0, over a squared minus y minus k, so k natin is 0, so that would be y squared na lang, over b squared. That's equal to 1. So, ayun. So, that would be the equation of the hyperbola. Pero di pa tapos. Of course, we need to satisfy this condition. The condition is that the hyperbola should pass through 3, 1. So, if the hyperbola passes through 3, 1, it should satisfy this equation because this is the hyperbola that we are trying to figure out the equation of. Okay? So therefore, at that point, 3, 1, the value of x is 3 and the value of y is 1. So let's just substitute. We'll have 3 minus 1 squared over a squared minus 1 squared over b squared. That's equal to 1. So simplify na lang natin. That would be 3 minus 1, 2 squared. So that's 4 over a squared minus 1 over b squared. That's equal to 1. Simplify further. The LCD is... No. The LCD is a squared, b squared. So this becomes 4b squared. Ayan. Minus a squared. Okay, tama ba? So a squared, okay, cancel, okay. That's equal to 1. So therefore, 4b squared minus a squared is equal to a squared, b squared. So this is now our first equation from the first condition. Again, the first condition is that the hyperbola passes through 3, 1. So that, yun yung condition natin. The other condition is that this is an asymptote. Okay? And we know that for parabolas opening sideward, the slope of the asymptote is just b over a. Diba? If the hyperbola is opening vertically or upward, vertically, ang slope nito, that would be a over b. Kasi nandito na yung a natin. Diba? So, a over b na siya. So, since sideward din yung hyperbola natin, so the slope is the slope is b over a. So, sige, ito na lang ang gamitin natin. Ito siya, the equation of this was x minus y equals 1. So, using this asymptote x minus y equals 1, let's change this to slope-intercept form. That would be y is equal to x minus 1. So therefore, the slope is equal to 1. Ito, we know that the slope-intercept form of a line is just equal to, it's just y equal to mx plus b. So therefore, the value of m is 1. And since the slope of the asymptote, since that is our asymptote, the slope is b over a. So 1 is equal to b over a. So if 1 is equal to b over a, it follows that a is equal to b. So if a is equal to b, pwede natin masolve. Yung b, substitute natin, gawin natin a because they are just equal. So this becomes 4, dito natin, lagay tayo ng space. 4a squared minus a squared, that's equal to a squared times a squared. So we have 3a squared, ba? Yeah, that's 3a squared is equal to a raised to 4. So therefore, 3 is equal to a squared. Ma-cancel out yung a squared. Okay? So a is equal to 3. A squared is equal to 3. So since a is equal to b, therefore, this is also b squared. Diba? So the hyperbola now, since ito yung hyperbola natin, x minus 1 squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. Therefore, kung ang a squared and b squared is just 3, this becomes x minus 1 squared over 3 minus y squared over 3. That's equal to 1. So, simplify natin, same denominator. So, x minus 1 squared minus y squared, that's equal to 3. So, x squared minus 2x plus 1 minus y squared equal to 3. Arrange na lang. We'll have x squared minus y squared minus 2x minus 2. Okay. So this is now the equation of the hyperbola. So let us check kung sakto siya dito. So x squared, nakaplot na tayo kanina. Okay, not drawn to scale. Scale natin muna. So our answer was, ito, x squared minus y squared minus 2x minus 2 equals z. Ayan. So pasok. So our answer is correct. And that is our answer. Let's have this as our fourth problem. Find the equation of the locus of a point which moves so that its distance from the point 4, 2 is twice its distance from the line x equals 1. So much better if we plot this first. Ito na lang para mas presentable. Okay, we have the point 4, 2 and the line x equals 1. Okay, let's have this. Ito. So, yung locus daw, okay, ano daw yung locus or the equation ng locus of a point that or in which its distance from this point 4, 2 to is twice its distance from the line x equal to 1. Okay? So, ano yung dinidescribe dito? So, the locus, for example, etong point. So, this distance is twice of this distance. Okay? So, if we have this point, this distance is twice of this distance. If we have this point, this distance is twice of this distance. So, kung i-trace natin yan, we have this curve. Diba? This distance daw of this point to a fixed point 4, 2, ayan, is doble nitong distance niya sa itong line na x equals 1. So, therefore, ito na yung distance from that to the directrix. And ito naman, this is the distance to the focus. Okay? Okay? So, let's say this distance is d. D na lang. Sige, let's take that as d na lang. So, therefore, sabi, itong distance is twice of that. So, that would be 2d dito. So, the ratio now eccentricity is 2d over d. So, the eccentricity is 2d over d. Let's just take d ha. General lang to. Then, therefore, the eccentricity is equal to 2. And we know that for curves, for conics with eccentricity greater than 1, that is a hyperbola. So, that means that in this particular problem, we are describing a hyperbola because meron siya eccentricity greater than 1, which is 2. Okay? Okay. So, therefore, we could say that 4, 2 is the focus. So, ito lang yung given niya, yung focus niya. So, asa na yung center, asa na yung value ng A, and the other attributes of the curve. So, yung gagamitin natin is these relationships. We know that the centricity, diba, is A over D. So, therefore, we know that D is equal to A over E. So, that means that D, ang D natin dito is the distance from the center to the directrix. Okay? So, for example, the center of this particular hyperbola is right here. So, ito yung i-describe ko na D if this is the center. Okay? So, ganun. Kanina, I'm just describing a distance of a point. Let's say, I denoted the distance as D. Ayan, that's why I use D dito. But that is not the same. Okay, so therefore, A over 2 na to dito. D is A over 2. And we know that C is equal to AE. So therefore, C is equal to A because A is equal to 2. Continue. So, since we know that C squared is equal to A squared plus B squared, so C squared would be 4A squared if we raise this to 2. So that's equal to A squared plus B squared. So we'll have 3A squared is equal to B squared. So, but what we know here is if this is the focus and this is, this is the focus and this is the directrix, we know that our hyperbola is opening again to the side. Okay? So ang center natin is much smaller than x equals 1. Kasi yung directrix is in between for hyperbolas. Our directrix is dito banda. So, in between the center and ito, the center and the vertex. So, ito yung D natin. Then, ito yung A. And ito yung C. So, if we look at the figure for hyperbolas, so this is the location of the directrix, and this distance is, dito na lang, this distance is D. So therefore, from the directrix to one of the foci, or to a focus, that would be this distance, which is C minus D. So therefore, etong distansya, halimbawa ito yung directrix, this distance is C minus D. Okay? So if we look at ito yung mga given, okay? Ito ang directrix, and this is a focus. So this distance is C minus D. Okay? Okay? And kung titingnan natin sa graph, that would be 3 units. 3 units. So therefore, C minus D, okay, let's change that. C minus D is equal to 3. And from here, we know that C is 2A, ito, and D is A over 2. So 2A minus A over 2 should be equal to 3. So LCD is, right? The LCD is 2. So we have 4A minus A should be equal to 3. So 4A minus A, that's 3A equal to 6. So A is equal to 2. So we have now the value of A. And solving for the value of B, dito na lang. So therefore, we'll have B squared is equal to 3A squared. So B squared is equal to 3 times A, which is 2 squared. So that would be 4 times 3, 12. Ano ba? Or B is equal to 2 square root of 3. Or B squared is equal to 12. And A squared is 4. Ito. Sulat mo lang dito that A squared is equal to 4. So, meron tayong A, meron tayong B. Remember na our hyperbola here is opening to the side with center at H, K. We know the value of K, that would be 2. Kasi along this line siya, yung location ng center is along the line of the focus. Yung H na lang di pa natin alam. So, solving for H, ayusin muna natin. We have now X minus H squared over 4 minus y minus k squared over 12 equals 1. And yung k natin, so the value of k is 2. So, ang hanapin na lang natin ngayon, or concern na lang natin, or the only unknown is h. So, to locate now the center, we know that the distance d is the location or the distance from the center to the directrix. So, since ito yung directrix natin, the location of the center is just left, or D units to the left of that directrix. So, solve na lang natin si D, which is equal to A over 2, which is equal to 2 over 2, or D is equal to 1. Hence, the location of the center is 1 unit to the left, diba, of this directrix. Okay? So, if 1 unit siya, so this is x equal to 1. So, 1 unit to the left, that would be x equal to 0. So, therefore, this is the center. The center is at 0. So, syempre, the value of y is 2. Or this is 2. So, 0, 2. So, that is the center. Ayun. So, therefore, the center of this hyperbola is at 0, 2. Ayan. So, may makukuha na tayong answer dito. So, we'll have x squared over 4 minus y minus 2 squared over 12 equals 1. So, getting the LCD, that would be 12. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So, 3x squared minus y minus 2 squared. That's equal to 1. So, 3x squared minus y squared minus 4y plus 4, that's equal to 12. Okay, so 3x squared minus y squared plus 4y minus 4 equals 12. So our answer is 3x squared minus y squared plus 4y minus 16 equals 0. So this is now our answer. Okay? So illustrate natin yung hyperbola. If we illustrate the hyperbola, i-graph na lang natin dito. In our previous drawing, nawala. Kasi we have x equals 1 given, then 4, 2, focus. Then our answer was 3x squared minus y squared plus 4y minus 16 equals 0. So this would be our hyperbola. Ayan. So yun yung answer natin. Okay?